So this week we're going to be looking at the programming with JavaScript. It's our big introduction to computer programming. Before we were working with Carol, and while that's like computer programming light, this week we're actually going to be getting into utilizing some JavaScript code. We're going to be doing variables. We're going to be taking in some math. We're going to be doing some other stuff with it, doing some graphics, creating a couple different things within it, learning how to do some keystrokes. And that's a lot of it. So I'm excited for this unit. We'll jump in and see you in just a second. Okay, so this is what our lessons look like. So far, we have what is code and the uses of programs. We kind of walked through this already together as a class. It's just a couple free responses, what is software, and it does a good job of video to walk you through that. The other one is the uses of programs. We talked about this in extent last week. Why you should learn to program, and then learning to program, reflections, so on and so forth with that. So I'm not going to dive too deep into those. What I really want to get into is the examples for in the other lessons, so 3.3 to 3.9. So that's what we're going to jump into next, and I look forward to meeting it, to doing it with you guys. Okay, so the first one that we get into today is exercise 3.3.4, your name and hobby. So the questions that we're going to be prompting, and we're going to be utilizing the read line function within JavaScript to be able to take in input and then output it back out utilizing the print line. The two questions that we're going to be asking is what is your name? Okay. Then on the next one, we're going to be asking is what hobby do you like? Okay. So what hobbies do you have? And then look it down below. This is what our print needs to look like. My name is, and then we'll fill in your name. And then I like, say, hobby. So this is how the first program looks like it. Usually it's on this run code over here. But if for some reason you ever forget something, forget a line of code, you might need to adjust it or something like that, you can go over to docs, and then you can look for in here. So we're needing to take user input. So we're going to go user input. And since we're reading a string is a line of characters, okay? Alphanumeric can be letters, can be numbers, can be everything. As long as it's both letters and numbers, it can be read as a string, okay? Read as an integer. Integers, we talked about this today in class. Integers are whole numbers. Now it can be positive or negative, but whole numbers, okay? Float's going to be if it's a decimal based number. So a whole number, including whole numbers, decimals too, is going to be a float. And then a Boolean is a true false. So what we're going to be looking at here is we got to ask about two things. So the first one we're going to be looking at is our var. Okay. Now we got to read in a name. So a good variable name would be name. We're going to make that equal to, and we're going to go read line. And then remember, inside the prompt is where we put our question. What are we asking for them? We're going to go, what is your name? Okay, and we're going to close that out over there. And we're going to go print ln. Okay, so print ln means that it's going to print a new line after it, or it's going to return our line after it. So we're going to go here. My name is, and we're going to put that space there. And in here, it's going to have us do this, what's known as concatenation, a plus button to my name is name. So what that plus there does is it increases or concatenates the print statement line, okay? So instead of having to do a print my name is, and then a print ln name, we can do the plus here, in which concatenates means adds on to the string, okay, or adds on to the print our name, okay? So that's the first thing that we wanted to ask. And then the next thing was hobby. What is a hobby you enjoy? Oh, there we go. Remember those semicolons at the end. We're going to go print ln. I like. And then we're going to do that concatenate hobby. Okay. So with this, we're going to go back and we're going to go run our code. We should see, oh, I put a semicolon at the end, or a colon at the end, not a semicolon. We're going to run this. It's going to present, what is your name? What is a hobby you enjoy? A hobby I enjoy, video games. And we're going to see that it outputs it over here. What is your name? Jason. My name is Jason. What hobby do you enjoy? Video games. Those are the questions that we asked. I like video games. We're going to hit that check code, see if our objects turn up all green over here. That looks great. We're ready to submit and continue with this project. All right, so now we're looking at exercise 344, apples and oranges. So what this one's looking at doing is it wants us to initialize a couple variables, meaning that we start them without anything else, creating them or doing anything before. So we want to start them before, and then we come and assign them values after that. So what we want to do is we're looking at the two variables. We're probably going to call them apples and oranges. And we want to initialize them with 20, and then for apples, and then 15 for oranges. And then we'll print how many we have, and we'll be looking at this. So the number of apples, number of oranges, and then we want to override what that variable was initialized with and set them both to 0 and print them out again. All right, so let's look at our starting code. There's nothing. So we're going to go variable, var, apple. And we want to start these with 20. var, oranges. And these we wanted to start with 15. Okay, so now we need to go into the print. We're going to go number of apples. Hit that space plus apple. Println number of oranges. We're going to add that in there and go orange. Okay, and so now what we want to do is we want to update that variable to them. Both of them, we want both of them updated to 0. So what we're going to do is instead of going var again, we're not defining a new variable. What we're going to be doing is overriding what's currently stored in that location, and that we're gonna refer to that location as apple. And we're going to set it equal to 0. We're going to do the same thing with orange. And we're going to take these two print statements up here, and I'm actually going to delete that. I'm going to copy and paste these in there. We're going to run that code, see what's outputted. We can see that the number of apples, 20, and the number of oranges, 15. And then we see the number of apples. We see that those are 0, and now 0 again. So we're going to check that code, style. Functions all start within a lowercase. Good job. Style, you have no nested functions. Good job. Okay, you should have 4 lines of output. We do. Code should initialize number of apples. So they say num apples right there. We just utilized apples. Okay. And then they say num oranges. We just utilized orange. So both of those are fine. We could update our variable to num apple and num orange. We could. That would be more appropriate because this right here would technically be, we would be looking at like the name of it, what type of apple it is, what type of orange it is. Whereas num apple, num orange gives us referral to the number value of them. Okay. But anyways, beyond that, we got that. We can hit submit and continue, and we'll check you out in the next one. All right, so here we are in 3.5.4. Obi-Wan says. Now, for the people who know, I'm a real Star Wars fan. But anyways, so we're looking at this. The statement that we're looking to create is hi, your name, or the name that we input. You want to meet number of droids and number of Wookiees. So that means that we need to be looking at 3 variables, and then we're looking at printing those out within a specific print line. I'm going to show you guys how to do that with general print statements, and then looking at the print line. Okay. So let's go in. So we needed to create 3 variables. We're going to start with that name, and we're going to utilize that read line. And we're going to ask, what is your name? Okay. So that's our prompt. That's what we're going to get in for our name. And then we're going to do this. So var. We're going to num droids. And we're now going to be putting in int because we're breeding in a number of droids. And then var num Wookiees. And then similarly, instead of reading in a string for that, we're reading in the number or an integer number. Okay. So now we're going to go and work on our print statement. Now I'm going to show you this, how we do this within a multiple prints instead of doing a singular print line. We got to make sure we leave that space there, close that off. We're going to go print, and we're going to go name. Now this is going to look like we're typing out more, which we are, but instead of doing that concatenation line, this is typically how you would first learn how to do this. No space, you would like to meet num droids. Do that. And this is where we're going to put in, oh, not that statement. We're going to go Wookiees. Wokies. And we're going to change this to that println. So that means that after this statement, it would do a return. Okay. Now, if we were doing a traditional println for our total number, you would go hi name you would like to meet droids and num Wookiees. Okay. Now we're going to go check this and see. Hi, Sean, you want to meet blank droids and blank Wookiees. Okay. So we're going to run here. We're going to run this code, see how it looks. How many droids? We'll go 5, 10. I want to meet a lot of Wookiees. Okay. Oh, you can see that I missed that spacebar right there. But beyond that, we have those two that should match up along with right there. Okay. Now, if I try to do this as a print statement or a check code right here, it's probably going to have us. Oh, I'm missing one on line 14. You're right. I'm missing one at the end. Now it's going to have it fine for us initially because we do have that print statement. We have the number of droids. We have the number of Wookiees. I laugh that it's not asking about the number of Wookiees. Okay. So you can see right here we have that read int and we have that read int right there. So then it has that out. So it's saying Carol. Okay. But both of these would work. Okay. Both of these would work. This would be traditionally how I would teach you. And then eventually I would show you this way. This gives you a better understanding of what happens with the print versus println or println statement for you. Okay. The println means that at the end of that, it's going to do a hard return line. The print means that it's going to stay on that same line and just continue on. And you can see that within our two cases over here. 5 and 10. And you can see that they both turn out the same statement from top to bottom. It's just one has more area covered up within there, more lines of code, versus the other one has a single line of code, but you do have to understand what the concatenation means and is doing. Okay. All right. Since this works out, we're going to hit that check code, submit, and continue. We look like we got all of our green checks right there, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. All right, so 366 is what we're looking at, sporting goods shop. So it's wanting us to add, to take in a constant or create a constant at the very top of our program called cost of Frisbee, and then set it equal to $15. Okay. Now remember that within coding, we're looking at the raw integer number, so 15. We don't really care too much about that $sign until we do a print statement. So right now what we're going to be looking at doing is creating that constant of 15 for the cost of Frisbees, and then we're asking or proposing a question to somebody about the number of Frisbees that they would like, and then we're doing just a general cost multiplication there for it. Okay. So let's jump in. So we need to declare a constant up there. So we're going to go make sure that we have that right. So we're going to go here. Let's look for variables, and we'll see in here we got variable, variable, variable. So I don't see where it states in there for constant. Okay, so what we're going to look for is going to go constant, C-O-N-S-T. And you can see that it's labeled right there, up at the top. So we're going to see here construct. Oh man, so they don't have that constant there that we're looking for. Okay, or at least labeled wise. So our constant is just C-O-N-S-T, and they want it to be named as cost of Frisbee, underscore of underscore Frisbee. And we're going to set that equal to 15. Okay. Now you'll notice that we declared that outside of our function, meaning that any spot in our code can utilize this. Now we're only going to be dealing with in this one function. Okay, but if we had a separate function, we could still refer back to that. Okay, so we're going to go here and we're going to do that var num Frisbee. And this is where we want to get how many Frisbees. Okay, so we're going to read int how many Frisbees would you like to purchase? Okay. So that's going to get stored in there. And now we need to declare a variable called cost. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that as cost of Frisbee underscore of underscore Frisbee. And we're going to multiply that by our num frisbee. I'm going to go back and update my variable up here to make sure it matches that. We're going to finish this line. Okay. Now we're going to make sure to be sure the program includes a comment that describes the program's behavior. Okay, so we want to make sure that we have that. Okay, and then we want to output the total cost of frisbee. So we're going to go print total cost, put that $sign right there. We're going to move outside and we're going to go cost. Now you'll see me often do this, and it's just it's something nice for a habit to make sure that you're closing off that end over there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this code right here. How many frisbees would we like? If we put in 1, it should be 15. Okay. If we run this again and we put in 10, it should be 150. We're going to check this code, make sure that it turns out that everything that we should have right there. So if we buy 3 frisbees, it should be 45. Buy 5, should be 75. We can even manually check that right there. Looks like it's right. Awesome. There we go. So we can see that we can do this multiplicative statement right here, cost of frisbees times num frisbee over there. Okay, and we see that variable. We're titling that to the variable cost, so on and so forth for right there. Okay. Looks like we got that completed based off the check code. We are ready to hit submit and continue. Okay, so here we go in 377, the French flag. So what we're going to be doing is this is our first kind of introduction to graphics, what we've been working on up to this point. Within this spot, we've been dealing with circles, rectangles, and stuff like that. Simple graphics on this page. Okay, it's known as the canvas. It's known as the canvas for it, and we're going to look through this right here. So we're going to run this demo. So what it wants is a third of it showing up as blue, white, and then red. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at right here. So we're going to go, let's go. So we're going to need 3 rectangles for this. So we're going to go and look at how to make a rectangle right there. So we're going to go var rec. We're actually going to make a couple rectangles here, and then we're going to set the positions of them. Okay, so where they're going to come from, and then how big we're going to make it. Okay. So we're gonna have some troubleshooting and some stuff like that. You'll probably see some cuts in it, just because this is a little bit more of a project starting. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go var rec 1, or we can go blue rec, and we're gonna go equals to new rectangle, and then we're gonna set the width and the height. Okay, the width and the height, we need to know this because we need to know the width of our box, so how wide the canvas is, and then how tall the canvas is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be doing a get width and get height statement. We're actually going to do that first. So we're going to go var, we're going to go x equals the get width. Okay, and then var y is equal to our get height. Okay, so this rectangle, we're going to set our sizes based off of the third of our canvas. Okay, now when we know this, we know that our set position is going to be it's going to be setting it to where our position is located at. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set this as a third of the width but full height. Okay, so we're going to go y for our we're going to not go y, we're going to go x divided by 3 for our width of it, and then we're going to go y. Okay, oh, get rid of that extra one there. And we're going to go var white rect equals new rectangle. We're going to go x divided by 3. And then y again. And then var red rect equals new rectangle. And then x divided by 3 y. Okay, so what that should do is that should take our width, figure out the full width of the canvas, because our canvas can change. It's initially set for how big we specify it is. It's built into the code that's supplied for us. But we need to make sure that we set it to a third of it. Okay. Now we want the full height. Okay. And now we need to go through and start setting the positions for them. Okay. So this is where we're going to call, and we can do this all within one statement. Okay, or not one statement, but one area. So we're going to call the blue state or blue rec. We're going to go dot set position. Okay. And now with this, what we're wanting to do is we need to figure out, and I believe how rectangles is made for the upper left corner. So we can see that right here. Set the upper left corner of the rectangle. So upper left. Okay. And we want this to be 0, 0. Okay. Now we can go and then do add. Okay. Now the add is going to sit there and actually place it. Blue rect. Okay. Now we're going to run in this and check it. So we should end up with a blue. Oh, we forgot to color it. Okay. But we should end up with a blue rectangle there. Okay, so now we need to look to see how can we get color on here. Does it specify width, height? I'm assuming our color will follow on that third part right there. Okay, so let's look at this. So let's see if we can go color. Let's see if that's where we need to do it. Now it's going to tell us very quickly if that's not where we set it. So, okay. So let's figure out how we add our color to our rectangle. And we'll see in just a second. Okay, so we see this right here. We see this, we can set our color by doing our rect or our object and then dot set color. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go blue, rect, and dot. Is it set color? Set color. We go color dot blue. All right. So now that first rectangle should show up as blue. Awesome. Okay. So now we need to work through and set up the rest of ours to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight and I'm going to go copy and paste down here. We're going to select our white and I'm going to paste that over our white area. And then I'm going to select our red and paste it over our red area. Now we need to make sure that we set our positions right. Okay. Okay. So now we need to make sure that we go, okay, how do we get to this? Okay. So now we're needing to set our X position going across, okay? So if X is our first third, okay, and that's at 0, okay, we want to take our total width and we want to take 1/3 of that. So we divide that by 3, okay? So it's going to be X divided by 3. Now we always also want our top of it to be at the 0, and we're going to set this color to white. Okay, we're going to go down here, set this color to red, and now we want this in the first or second third, so we need to go X, and we want to go times, we want to go 2 divided by 3. Okay, so let's run our code, see what it looks like, and there's our French flag. Okay. We'll hit our check code, see how it checks out. Looks like that. Blue is correct, red is correct. Looks like we didn't need to do the white stripe, but we were able to. Okay. See, you should have 2 rectangles, styles, awesome. You have no nested functions, great, awesome. So here's my question for you guys. And how would we do this with functions? Okay. How would we do this with a function? Okay. Now for my students who are here and they've checked out the video, if you are able to create your rectangles within separate functions, I might give you 1 or 2 bonus points or extra credit points. Okay. So I look forward to seeing your guys' codes on this French flag, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. All right, so I know this throws us off for our number that we've been doing so far. It usually is in the 3s. For some reason, this is 2755. But believe it or not, yes, it is still in the same unit. We're okay. Okay. But this one we're looking at doing is creating rectangles whenever we click our mouse. A bonus challenge is if you can use the Docs tab to figure out a randomizer for the next color. Command to change the color of your rectangle each time you click your mouse. We're going to be looking at doing that. This, when it comes in, is very bare. Okay. There's not a lot there. Okay. What we first need to start doing is doing our function. And we're going to title that as function start, because we should always start with a start function. Okay. Now that is, unless if we have some variables or something like that up above that we need to know, and that global level accessed anywhere at any time. I can understand we need some variables up there, but function should be the first start. Our function start should be what we have at the very top. Okay. Now remember, within this, we're looking at creating rectangles whenever we click the mouse. So let's first work on building that rectangle. Oh. Let's see if we can find it. We'll jump up to the very top. Rectangle. Okay. So let's work on building that rectangle first, and then working on the mouse click event. Okay. So I'm going to move this down to a separate function. Okay, and I'm going to title that as draw rectangle. Okay, oh, I should put a space there. And this is where we're going to define our rectangle, give it a size, and then set a color or randomize that color. Okay, so we're going to go var drec, and we're going to go new rectangle. Let's set the size. We'll go, 30 by 40. Let's do 20 by 40. Okay. Remember, it doesn't give us a size there. That's fine. It's okay for what we're looking for. Okay. Now the set position. So drec dot set position. When we're going to set this position, is going to be a little different. Okay. Instead of doing a true set position, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be calling it to the position of the mouse. Okay. And so what we're looking at is going to be utilizing our mouse part up here. Okay, so let's see, where did it go? Mouse events. Okay, so right down here. So we're going to see the mouse move, mouse click. Oh man, we want that mouse click. So we're going to do this mouse click event, method. And then we're going to call that draw rectangle. Okay. So now you might notice that when we're down here, so function on mouse move. So this is that update, because we need to be able to get that external, get the E for our location. So we need to make sure we pass in E. Now E is actually built into this mouse click method in there. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here for our set position. We can now move back up, find our rectangle. Okay. And we're going to do that set position as E dot get X and e.getY. Now I'm going to make sure that we got that right, so we can see that here. So var rec, so we have that get x and get y. Looks like we need to make sure that it's a capital X and a capital Y. Now we can go check that again for that mouse event. Okay, so we see that down here. You see the get x and get y. It looks like it's a function, so we need to make sure to include that parentheses there. Okay. And then we're going to go add parenthesis direct. Okay. Let's go check this first, see if it runs. Oh, looks like we got an error. So direct position. So the get x is undefined. So now we got to look and troubleshoot that. Okay. We're going to come back together in just a second and figure out what's going on. We'll see you in just a bit. All right, so I want to point out a couple of our changes that we made. When you're utilizing the mouse events, you need to make sure that you pass in this E, okay? But also within this, we need to make sure that we are not calling it out as a function, okay? Typically, we'd put the parenthesis here. As soon as we do that, we title it as a true function, meaning that it's looking for variables that are specified within there. But because we're calling it as a method or a class of click method, we need to make sure that we are not including those parentheses up there. And then we see the e.getX and the e.getY work, and we can click and place our rectangles. Okay. Now, as is, when we're looking at this bonus challenge, if you guys complete that bonus challenge and you submit a screenshot of it working, okay, and you submit a screenshot of it working, this bonus challenge, if you can get it to randomize to the next color, okay, when you click, I will give you a couple bonus points, okay? I believe I'm offering in this unit up to 5 bonus points, and you guys know that most assignments are based off of 10 points, so 5 bonus points is pretty big, okay? All right, what we're going to do is we're going to sit there and we're going to run and check our code. All right, on teleport, your ball should move. Oh, I don't know why it's asking about ball. Okay. But it's expected. It's looking for that randomly changed color right there. I'm not putting it in because I want you guys to do it. I want you guys to figure out where that needs to go. Okay. So when you have that randomizer's next color in there, awesome. Okay. If you choose not to do that, you can hit there and submit and continue right here. I know it doesn't have that on teleport. Your ball should change random. I don't like how it's starting out as a ball because it should know that we are doing rectangles. Okay. So if you submit that and that's still red and that's okay for yours. All right. Remember, if you're going after those bonus points, make sure that you have that randomized next color. All right. We'll see you in our last unit or last lesson for this unit. And that is 3.9. And I'll see you in a second. Okay, so we're looking at exercise 3.9.4, growing circles. So what we're doing in here is we're looking at creating a key event, i.e. our key left arrow and key right arrow, to make sure the circle either grows bigger or smaller, depending on which one you push. You can see if I push the right arrow, it increases in size. If I push the left arrow, it decreases. Now, some people are going to ask, can it go to where there's nothing showing? Yes. Okay. Now, I don't know if it continually goes, because I can sit there and hold that, and notice if I start pushing back, it's going to sit there, and because it's negative, okay, because that size is negative, it's going to take a while to get back to where it actually shows up, okay? And we can sit there and we can fill it up, or we can put it down, okay? So let's go in here. Let's look at this. All right, nothing's showing there, so we always do this. We get a couple returns in there, and we build our function. Start. And let's get that function going. Remember, we're going to be working with our circles, so let's find circles. All right. So we need to create a circle, and we define its radius. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we could sit there and we could create this circle in here. We can. Okay, we can have it draw and start it right away. Okay, we do not need to create a function separately for it. We can. Okay, we can go draw function, draw circle. Okay, and we can call this from up here because we're just calling it as a general call statement. We can call that. Okay, so let's look here. We're going to go var circle equals new circle, and we're going to give it a radius. So let's see, what do we want to start with? We can utilize the example from up there. We're going to title that as 50. Okay, so it's going to start off as a radius of 50, and then we need to set its position. Dot set position. Now, if you remember that method where we were able to set it up and call to where we can find that center, we need to utilize the get width and get height function. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a get width, and we're going to divide that by 2, and a get height, and we're going to divide that also by 2. Okay. Okay. Now, if we wanted to set a color, we could set a color. Color.red. Okay. Or color.blue, or whatever color you're wanting. You could utilize the create from RGB and create a custom color. You could. Okay. And then we just need to make sure that we add that circle. Okay. So that's going to draw our circle. Okay. Okay. Now here's the thing is we're going to need to be updating this radius. Okay. Let's make sure we get our draw. All right, we get that draw right there, right dead center. Okay, but now we need to be updating this radius. How can we update that without creating a new circle? Okay, so you need to be passing in a new variable. Okay, I'm going to call it rad. Okay. And we're going to call that crad inside of our circle. Okay. Now we need to initialize that variable. Rad is equal to 50. Okay. Now what we might want to do is we might want to update this before. Okay. Okay, because right now, anytime that we call this, we're going to end up re-verifying it as 50. So we might want to move this outside of our start and turn it into a global variable. At this point, we do not need to pass in rad right here. We can use rad down here. Okay, so there's a couple different ways that we can do that. We can go rad now, okay? And we're going to utilize this in the function start up here to call that, okay? Now let's go and look up our keystrokes, okay? Keyboard events. All right, so we can look at the key down, key up methods. We got some other methods in there too. So we can look at a couple different things there. Right there, it gives us 2 different options, a key or a E key down equals so on and so forth. All right. Okay, so we see a key down method means that when we push it is when it happens. Key up means that when we release it is when it happens. Okay. Now this is going to be kind of important for us to kind of pay attention to. Okay. When we're looking at something like this, we want to generally be utilizing more of the key up, key down. Okay. We were wanting to be looking at the key up when we release it. If we push the key down, we could keep holding it and then it keeps happening that. We could do that, okay? Or if we wanted to have it to where when we release it, and so we force a release on it in order for it to act, okay? So we can look at both of those. So let's look at the key down method. And what are we going to be calling here? Okay. What are we calling? Okay. Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be calling a method that we haven't made yet. Okay. We can title it as function key down. Okay. We can do that. Okay. We're going to be passing in E here. Okay. So if we do this, we're going to be doing that key down. Okay. And so what happens with this? Well, instead of utilizing this ball.move, we should be doing the, I believe it's circle.size. Okay. We'll want to look at that and make sure on that. Okay. Because the ball.move means that it's moving left and right. Okay. What we need to be doing is we need to be working with, and I'm going to go back up and we're going to go find circle. Okay. What we want to do is we want to look to see if we can sit there and go, ooh, get radius. Okay. So we want to be looking at that and see what that stores. Okay. And then we can see here, we can set the radius there. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to adjust that. Okay. So we might need to pull the radius, and then we're going to set a variable there for the set radius. All right, so we are back at this right now. We are looking at how to code for that key down. Remember, we're looking at utilizing that left and right, but really we could do any variable depending on what we wanted to tie to it. So we're looking at this key down. Remember, we do not put parentheses there for our function that we're calling out right here. Okay, we do want to have the E because we're going to be calling that out within the method for key down, and we're going to go and check our assignment not for user input. Come on now, Mr. G. We're going to be doing keyboard events. So what we're looking at here is this. We're going to be doing this, and we're going to be setting it up with an if statement. Gosh. If eCode or e.keycode is equal to, and we're going to do keyboard left and keyboard right for growing and shrinking. Okay. We're going to do that. Okay. So we're going to update the rad right there. Okay. Now we're going to probably need to call the draw circle within here. So we're going to check that out. Okay. So let's look at this. All right. So we're going if e.keycode is equal to keyboard dot left. We're going to have rad equal, or we're going to go rad plus equal. We can go 5, we can go 10, we can go 1 pixel at a time. Okay. Else if e.keycode is equal to keyboard dot right, we're going to go rad minus equal 1. So that should shrink it. Keyboard right should shrink it. Keyboard left should increase it. Okay. Now let's test this out. We're going to check it to see what happens, see if anything happens. It looks like we're just kind of shaking this window back and forth. So we don't have that pass through yet. Okay. All right, and to finish up this problem, what we have to do is now we got to set circle to reset its radius. We want to reset that object radius that we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go circle, referring to the object that we made right here. And now I'm going to pull up the doc, and we're going to see this. We're going to see this option to change the radius. Okay. So we're going to go set radius, and we're going to go rad. Since we are manipulating rad as a variable right here, we want to make sure that we're setting it to rad to grow up and down. Okay. Now we're going to run into this. Okay. Looks like it's working so far. But as soon as we do anything, we see circles not defined. You may have a typo. Check your capitalization. We don't have a typo, but it's an issue where circles being defined. Okay. Now, technically, we should be able to pass circle into it. But notice where we've defined circle at. Okay. We defined circle inside draw circle. Okay. So that means that it only exists within this draw circle. And notice we do not call our key down method from in there. Okay. So we're going to copy our variable call out. Okay. And we're going to remove the var call out right here. Okay. This allows circle to now be a global variable and allows for us to work with it in any function available without having to pass through the variable up and down, so on and so forth. Okay, so if we run this code now, we should see our circle grow or shrink. Okay, so we're going to hit the check code, make sure that we see your functions all start with lowercase and you have no nested functions. Great, awesome. If you're wanting a little bit more of a challenge, okay, if you're wanting a little bit more of a challenge, how would you approach it to where rad cannot go in below 0? Okay, because you'll see at this point, if we hold our right arrow, it will shrink and it'll be gone. Well, rad right now is sitting there going, hey, what's rad? Well, if we system out this, println, or print rad, okay, we'll see that it's going up and down there. Okay, now I'm going to stop. We're actually going to go to println. Okay, println, remember, that produces a new line for each time it runs. Okay, so we'll see that shrink down. We notice that we're at -1. But notice, we now have to sit there and hold and wait for it to come back. Okay, okay. So I'm going to stop that right here. What would you do in order to prevent it from going below 0? Okay, now we can't have it be 0. 0 is perfectly fine. But what would you do in order to have it not be below 0? Okay, we'll talk about this in class probably on Thursday and Friday. So you guys will see a little bit of options for this. But yeah, all that's left for this unit is our lesson 10 quiz. And once you run your check and you see that it's functioning and working right, hit that submit, and we'll see you next time. All right, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this first big step into actually coding with JavaScript. We got to do a lot of fun things with it, bringing in graphics, starting working with some of the math running behind, taking user input, working with variables. I hope you guys found some enjoyment within it. We're going to start looking at the control structures next, and I'm excited for that unit too. All right, looks like we'll see you guys next time. Bye.